Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Barbadian businessman welcomes Antigua's efforts on LIAT. This story takes the lead in our 991st edition of Caribbean Perspective for Monday, 23rd November 2020. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. ABS's news exclusive regarding Antigua and Barbuda's efforts to rescue regional carrier LIAT. A Barbadian businessman has welcomed the move and is proposing ways for the Gaston Brown administration to get the airline to soar to new heights. Alessandro Guistolisi spoke with ABS about a plan to expand LIAT for the benefit of the region.
LIAT returned to the skies with a hugely symbolic flight on the 1st of November from Antigua to Dominica. The government in St. John's clearly sees this as one small step for the carrier, a giant leap for regional air travel. LIAT's nascent recovery follows legislative, administrative and financial backing from the Gaston Brown administration, a fact not lost on Alessandro Guistolisi, an Italian business.
A better position than Panama. Panama has a good position for Latin America, but not we have a better position to link Europe, South America, Central America, even Central America, South America and Africa. So we are not using it.
However, he argues other countries in the region should follow Antigua's lead and push for LIAT to rise like the fabled phoenix from the ashes. Guistolisi is proposing that investors be sought to grow the airline to strategically transform the region into a hub for the movement of people and cargo.
But we need medium aircraft, like this, for example, a Boeing 757 or the new Airbus 321neo. They can do 4,000 nautical miles.
He suggests this could be complemented by offering connecting flights using smaller aircraft. The businessman says this would ensure greater aviation independence for the region, since it would not have to depend solely on international carriers. He has sent his proposals to the governments of Antigua and Barbuda, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Barbados, and is eager for a response. Guistolisi says a regional response is needed as it will take a significant capital outlay.
I think Mr. Gaston Brown, maybe he understands that. That's why he decided to keep LIAT. But I would like that everybody rethink this, even here in Barbados.
As the murders continue to take place in Trinidad and Tobago, the National Security Minister says a major gang leader was arrested overnight. This, as the Attorney General told the Parliament on Friday last. There has been a serious reduction in criminal gangs since 2018. The Attorney General piloted a bill in Parliament to extend the life of the Anti-Gang Act by 30 months. TV6's Joel Brown reports.
Last night into this morning, over the last 24 hours, a major gang leader of a gang called the Six Gang in Trinidad and Tobago was arrested and charged under this legislation.
National Security Minister Stuart Young in the House of Representatives on Friday, as he urged the opposition to give its required support to a bill meant to give a 30-month extension to the life of the Anti-Gang Act. It was last extended in 2018 and expires on Monday, November 30th.
And I will put on record, if I had my way, I would follow what the police asked for and get rid of the sunset clause and just put this permanently on the books.
Naparima MP Rodney Charles outlined the opposition's position on the bill for another extension.
Madam Speaker, today represents a dark day in the history of democracy and the rights of the poor and oppressed in Trinidad and Tobago.
When Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi piloted the bill on Friday, he recalled the opposition only supported an extension of the act in 2018 due to public pressure.
In 2018, the number of gangs within Trinidad and Tobago, as shared with the nation at large and with the opposition in written correspondence, was 211 gangs, And what I can tell you today, Madam Speaker, according to the information from the TTPS, that number has dropped by nearly 38%, down from 211 to 129 gangs.
The AG also said the number of persons reputed to be gang members dropped by 75% from 2,400 in 2018 to 1,014 in 2020. Mr. Charles recalled that the AG said as of November 30th, 2017, there were 2,459 known gang members.
Madam Speaker, no doubt this figure has risen considerably now. How many have been arrested of these 2,459? And more so, how many have been convicted? How many?
Earlier, the AG said the police have been doing yeoman service.
In 2018, they were able to have 22 gang-related murders solved with 28 arrests. In 2019, 13 gang-related murders solved with 10 arrests. In 2020, 5 related murders were solved, gang-related murders with 13 arrests.
Opposition MP Saddam Hussein said there were 517 murders in 2018 and 536 murders in 2017. He also said that as of November 2020, there were 309 murders in Trinidad and Tobago.
In the year 2018, when the anti-gang law was passed, we had 517 murders. When you look now at 2017, before the act was passed, you have 495 murders. And in 2016, you have 462 murders. So the statistics are showing us that when the Anti-Gang Act was not law, the number of murders were actually less.
The National Security Minister, as did the AG, maintained the act is helping reduce criminal gang activity.
Not a single piece of legislation will eradicate the scourge, but is that a reason not to support it?
Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Over in St. Lucia, former Chief Medical Officer Dr. Stevenson King has advised the public health officials and local authorities to consider the best practices around the region to improve St. Lucia's COVID-19 pandemic response. Solange Alfred of HTS News Force reports.
Former Chief Medical Officer and Chair of the Health and Best Practices for Recover St. Lucia, Dr. Stephen King, is recommending a new way to tackle COVID-19. The non-compliance of individuals has forced the government of St. Lucia to announce the rollout of COVID-19 wardens. However, Dr. King says this may not be the best approach. He instead advocates a national behavioral modification campaign.
The approach that we are adopting is one of cooperation. So in other words, let's just create the social pressures rather than a law enforcement approach, because we believe in motivating. So for instance, the COVID wardens are really protocol champions. It's not the power of arrest that works, it's the power of persuasion. Information, education, motivation, communication.
Another priority area identified by Dr. King is enhancing health security, particularly the current protocols for entry into the island. He suggests the authorities consider adopting the best practices of other territories that have proven effective.
When we look at entrance to the country, what is the best protocol? We look at examples like Barbados. Is that a good protocol? Should we be looking at it? Should we be adapting it? And these are the kinds of conversations that we want to have in our committee and share with the national team.
The final key area outlined by Dr. King is that of contact tracing. The former CMO differs with some medical professionals on withholding pertinent patient information that may help in widening the net in the contact tracing effort.
Not knowing can hurt. If you don't know somebody's infected, if you don't know you're infected, that's a problem. So we want to enhance and deepen and widen contact tracing, and in particular, support people who are identified as contacts. There's psychological support, there's health support, the health screening that needs to happen, the testing that needs to happen. And we believe that we can actually help by mobilizing across the country through businesses, through communities, to help the ministry with contact tracing. The other issue is there technology that we can bring to bear? Contact tracing apps, electronic apps that we can bring to bear.
Dr. King is lobbying for a public health approach model based on identifying and analyzing the problem, adopting best practices, married with resources, to devise a plan of action that, upon implementation, retains the flexibility to evolve when needed. Collage Alfred, HTS News Force.
A former permanent secretary of the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs in Guyana, Sherry Samantha Fede, is decrying the government's decision to have her appointment revoked. The details from HGP's Wendell Badri.
Speaking with this newscast, Fede explained that she proceeded on leave sometime mid-October and subsequently learned that her appointment as the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs had been revoked by way of a letter from the Minister of Governance and Parliamentary Affairs, Gail Teixeira.
My position as the permanent secretary has been revoked, and wish you all the best in your future endeavor. But not saying that if when my leave concluded, which can be on the 24th of this month, we will be still here, I'm still to hear that.
Sherry stated that while she served in the public service for 25 years, the way in which her removal from office was effected was not professional.
No, it wasn't correctly followed. That way isn't doing things, and as a Public Service Commission appointee, everything has to join order.
Asked whether this move has put a strain on her financially, she responded,
Of course, because I have bills to pay, loan to pay back, UG fee to pay back, which is coming out my salary every month.
Fede said she is eager to know where she will be reassigned to when her leave concludes on the 25th of this month. The letter, which was served to her and seen by this newscast, does not say whether or not the former PS will be retained or reassigned. The letter outlined that since the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs no longer exists, her appointment has been revoked and a new permanent secretary has been appointed. Sherry was instructed in the letter to proceed on leave which had been accumulated, as well as to return any property of the ministry in her personal care. This newscast also reached out to the Minister of Governance and Parliamentary Affairs, Gail Teixeira, for a comment on the matter. She advised, however, that she will be releasing a statement on the matter later in the evening on Thursday. Wendell Badri, HGP Nightly News.
Belize's spanking new Prime Minister recently addressed the state of the economy his administration inherited from the Dean Barrow administration, and things look very bleak for the English-speaking Central American CARICOM member state.
The magnitude of mismanagement was verified at our briefing by the technocrats from the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Belize. These technocrats jointly expressed that the government has been functioning with unsustainable fiscal and debt positions. The presentation to Cabinet by the technocrats revealed that central government's revenues have fallen by over $166.8 million, or by 24.9%. This is far worse than we had anticipated. Government has been borrowing to meet the monthly wage and pensions bill and other current expenses to the tune of around $30 million per month. As a result, central government's debt has jumped from 97.7% of GDP to 132.9% of GDP. In simple terms, the UDP government maxed out the credit card. We do not earn enough to pay our bills. We are more than double the internationally accepted debt to GDP threshold and the second highest in the Caribbean. This is unsustainable.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.